Welcome to the quarterly IT All-Staff Meeting. This quarter, we are live from District 7 in downtown Los Angeles, the City of Angels. Now put your hands together for our own angel, your CIO, St. George of Akiyama.
Thanks so much. Welcome to the show. I got to tell you, Ed, thank you for that kind introduction. You're always over the top. St. George of Akiyama. All right. I'm gonna add that to my list. But thank you so much for joining the show. I got to tell you, it's always a great opportunity for us to connect, right? To reach out and kind of share information that's going on. But it's also an opportunity for us to answer questions. So please hit that Ask George email box, and we'll be taking those questions throughout the show. Also, at the end of the show, there'll be an opportunity for the folks here in the audience to ask questions. So please hit us up on that. I got to tell you, I'm so excited to be here in D7, and partially because I was really looking forward to getting John Belinsky on the show again. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. He would have been the first two-time participant on the show. And you remember John from last time, he was in D8. He had such a great time on the trivia show. And so we'll have to catch John around. Now, he's been to a couple of different districts, so if it's not 7, we'll see. Maybe I'll catch him on another show. But for today's show, we've got a great lineup. You hear from all the division chiefs. Luk-Soo couldn't be here, unfortunately. She's on travel. She's actually on the East Coast, I think dropping off her niece at college, so a very monumentous event. Instead, we've got a great stand-in, Bill Boyd, who goes by many aliases, so see if you can keep track of how many names I use for Bill. The first thing I kind of want to talk about, though, I want to talk to the local IT manager just to get it started off. And this is a very exciting thing for me because Wing, can you come up? Hi, Wing. Thank you so much. You've been such a great host. I really appreciate you hosting us at the event and taking time to have dinner with us last night and so forth.
Welcome to District 7.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here at District 7. I love the hospitality. More importantly, I don't know if folks know, but I'm a car guy. Folks probably know that. Did you guys know that Wing is a huge car enthusiast? Huge. I see a lot of smiles here. Huge. So you're actually probably of all the people I've met at Caltrans, including some of the deputies in the program areas are actually huge car enthusiasts, but you've got the most extensive list of cool cars almost anybody I've ever met have owned. Okay. So, do you want to take turns kind of calling out some of the cars that you've owned?
Sure.
All right. So some of the cars I know of, so I'll start and we alternate, okay?
Okay.
WRX STI, Subaru's kind of giant killer. You've had one of those?
Yes.
Okay.
I have the Mitsubishi Evolution 8.
Evo 8?
Yes.
Holy smokes. So both all-wheel drive,
yes.
Kind of huge aftermarket potential also. On the Evo, how many horsepower?
500 horsepower to the wheel.
To the wheels. So that's amazing. I'm sure the car guys in our show are mouth agape. I mean, to get 500 to the wheels.
And I take it to the track.
And you take it to the track?
Yes.
So which tracks?
Street of Willow Springs.
Okay.
Or Buttonwillow.
Street of Willow Springs and Buttonwillow. I've come to understand that one of our IT managers has a GTR, but I think a 500 horse Evo 8, that's going to give it a good run for its money. But you've also had Porsches, right?
Yes, I do.
You've had a Cayman?
Yes, I have a Cayman, and I have a 911. 911?
911. No, just a plain Jane 911, huh? And you, was it one of the older ones or one of the newer ones?
I have a newer one, M3.
Okay, you had M3 as well? So,
yes.
So what generation M3?
E46.
E46. So that's a classic car too. That's
yes.
That's one of the last of the 6-cylinder M cars?
Yes.
Right, I think that one goes to, I'm going way too
that's
deep on the car
That's my daily
thing.
drive.
That's your daily driver. But
back then.
Back then.
Yes.
And then the last time I came up here, you had a Prius.
Yes.
Yeah,
once I have kids, right? And I'll go with
a
Prius.
Yes. And I was like, oh, you're breaking my heart.
But Prius is too slow, so I
just
changed it to a Model 3.
Now you've got a Tesla Model 3.
Yes.
God, my son would kill to get one of those Model 3s.
Yes. And save gas.
See, yeah, that's why you bought it, right?
Yes.
You bought the Model 3 just for the efficiency.
It's weird that I don't have to go to gas station anymore.
Yeah, there's no maintenance on that car either,
Yes.
right? So you don't have to change the oil. All you have to do is rotate the tires,
Yes.
and you're
That's
good. I
all.
heard that car's pretty quick too.
Yes.
Is it very?
Yes. Compared to Paris, yes.
Yes, very fast. Well, that's fantastic. Well, all right, so I can't even bring my list of cars up. I got some 72 Dodge back in the day, and that was it, so nothing compares to that. In addition to the car thing, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here in D7? What is your job or your role?
Yes, in District 7, I'm the desktop support manager, and we're the level 2 support for our district office and 98 field site, and we have 2 more field sites coming up too.
Oh, so an even 100.
Yes, and we're supporting all the desktop, laptop, printer, and system support and service desk. They also have like level 1 support and level 3 support.
All right, fantastic. And D7 is a big district. So how many users do you support?
We have 3,000 plus user here,
All right.
and just the DO office we have 1,800
1,800, okay, but
Yes.
3,000 total. Certainly
total,
big,
including
big,
all the
big
field
crew.
office. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for supporting them. I got to tell you, I hear a lot of great compliments. So
Thank
so
you,
thank you
thank
for
you.
that work. All right, this is the part of the show where we normally have a little fun, right? So what we normally do is we have a little game show, if you will. So do you guys remember what the name of that game show is? CT
Trivia.
All right. Wow, you guys are good. And I can't let you do this alone, right? So we got to bring somebody up to challenge you. I don't know if there'll be much of a challenger, but let's bring up Billy Boyd.
Thank you, Georgie.
Hi,
So
Jim.
Billy, here we go. We're starting to. Oh wow, house sportsman. That's very nice of you. Now, Wing, I want you to crush him. So all right, are you ready? All right, here we go. All right.
I'm not no home turf advantage.
No
here.
home turf. No. I'm sure you'll get all of these. Willie. All right. First question. This Caltrans district logs the most vehicle miles every day. Most vehicle miles. What do you think? Wing,
District
yes,
7.
Very clearly.
District 7.
D7. You're absolutely right. D7. Look at this. It's 111 million daily VMT miles, which is equal to 4,000 trips around the Earth every day. So, you guys in Bishop, you don't have traffic, right? It's really happening here in D7. All right, Bill, I'm sorry, I got to change your name again. William, are you ready for the next question?
William's the I'm in trouble name.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I don't even know your middle name. I have to figure that out.
I don't think I'm going to share that.
All right.
We're good.
I'll ask Carl later. All right. This is a tough question. Which Caltrans district includes the Hollywood sign? Oh, all right. Just a little slow again.
Move away.
Just a little slow again.
District 7.
D7. And you'll notice it's the Hollywood Land sign. In 1923, it originally read Hollywood Land to advertise the name of a new housing development. So it went from Hollywood Land to Hollywood. It's very good. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. All right. This is a tough question. This Caltrans district, all right, position, just like on the track, right? You're just going to go defense with blocking.
Yes.
I love it. This Caltrans district is home to 9 professional sports teams.
Okay,
All right,
I'll let you.
I'll
I'll let
give
you.
All right, because you went with 2 hands, so we're going to give you that one. Willie.
District 12.
D12. Yeah, that's a good
Final
answer.
answer,
That's your final
final
answer?
answer,
Okay, that's a good answer. That's not the right answer, though. So, I'm sorry.
No wrong
9.
answer, is there?
Yeah. You've heard Carl. Well, Carl will talk about fishing later, so there are definitely wrong answers. So nice try. Wing?
District 7.
D7. Okay. Man, and look at all the sports teams up there. LA Sparks, LA Rams, LA Lakers, LA Clippers, Dodgers, Kings, and the Kings in NorCal means a totally different thing. It means you lose in the 4th quarter. The Chargers, the Galaxy, and the LA Football Club. Wow. Do you attend any of these sports teams?
LA Clippers.
The Clippers games?
Yes.
All right. Longtime Clippers fan? Or?
lately.
Lately, all right, totally got it.
I used to be a Lakers fan.
A Lakers fan, all right, so you switched a little bit? All right, it's like Evo and STI. Okay, totally get it. All right, Caltrans' most populous district. Most populous, the most people. Any idea? Oh, all right. Sheepishly, you're going to get the swan, right? Yeah, you're worried about that. All right.
I'm going to go with B, District 12.
Wow. You know, oddly,
it's got to be right eventually.
Eventually. You know, I think it will be right eventually, Billy, but to tell you the truth, it's the only district we haven't been to. So maybe if you hold off, and we'll bring you back for that district show.
Okay, thank you for the hint.
All right. Wing, any idea? Could this be D8 or D7? Which one do you think?
D7.
D7. Over 25% of California's population lives in LA and Ventura counties. I think that goes with all those millions of miles of vehicles traveled and so forth. So look, there it is, D7. I think I see you in there. Wing, are you in the back?
There.
Okay, all right. All right, got it. Thank you. Now this is interesting. I didn't know there was an island, but this Caltrans district includes an island. Which one could that be? All
District 7.
D7. Wow, you're all over it. And there we go. All right, Catalina Island. There is a 14-year-long wait list to bring a car to the island. 14 years. You thought getting a parking spot was hard. 14 years. Most residents use golf carts for transportation. All right, and here we are. The last question. So, Billinator, you've got an opportunity here, right? This one's for all the marbles. You can, all right, Bill, since you raised your hand. Well, what's the answer? Let me guess what that could be. Go ahead.
I don't know the letter, but I'll say District 12.
District. Well, you know, I love your tenacity. You know, as a project manager,
it's gotta be
you
right
have to have tenacity.
Even a stuck clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day, that's right. That's I've never heard that joke, Bill.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's an original.
All right.
Oh, B.
What? Once home to the world's largest electric transit system. Wing?
District 7.
D7. Clearly, D7 is the answer to everything. At the turn of the century, Pacific Electric cobbled together a regional network spanning more than 1,000 miles of rail. So that's amazing. Turn of the century, 1,000 miles of rail. That was huge. It tells you how futuristic, you know, D7 was back then and continues to be. So, interesting train. Have you seen some of these before?
Yes.
All right.
It's in our museum, and then it's also in Glendale.
And you come from Glendale. Okay. You said it's in our museum. Do you have a museum? Or no?
District 7.
All right. Obviously, D7 is the answer to all good things. So thank you so much. And for winning, we have a little prize for you. What, a brown bag? It could be diamond. It could be a Model S. It could be anything. So thank you so much for playing on CT Trivia. You did an excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Wilster. I appreciate it. All right. So just as a reminder, please send in those questions, right, to Ask George, because we want to get those. You got the DCs here, you got myself. Ron, do we have any questions to start with?
Yes, we do, George. This is a great question. With the change of leadership at both agency and Caltrans, what impact on IT do you foresee?
That's a great question. Show of hands in the room, how many of you have seen the announcement on the director and chief deputy? All right, fair amount. So there's been a lot of changes at agency, which is CalSTA. So CalSTA governs certainly Caltrans, DMV, CHP, OTS, BOPC. And that's where you see typically a secretary and an undersecretary. So at the secretary level, David Kim has come in. David Kim comes to us from Hyundai. And before Hyundai, he was working, I think, at the feds at FHWA. Before that, he worked at the legislature. And the other nice thing about David Kim is he's actually a NorCal guy. So he grew up in the city of Davis, which is about half an hour from Sacramento. So he knows his way around, you know, transportation. He knows his way around California politics. and knows his way around certainly North and Southern California. Under David is Alyssa Canovi. So Alyssa comes to us from actually MetroLink. How many of you guys down here ride the MetroLink? All right, very nice. So formerly with MetroLink, before that she was the CFO of FHWA, which are our Fed partners. Also a ton of transportation experience. As the CFO, you can imagine, she's going to have a lot of financial questions and really take a strong look, I think, at how we're running projects. And on the IT side, does it make sense? Is there ROI? Announced yesterday, we have a new director, Tokes. So Tokes comes to us from Tennessee. And in Tennessee, I believe he was played the chief engineer role and kind of the chief planner role. So for him, certainly everybody's coming in the door with a strong transportation background. And I would say the other thing for Tokes, he's a young guy, kind of like Malcolm, was and still is a young guy. So I think he'll have a lot of energy, a lot of excitement towards transportation, eager to see that. And last but not least, we've got a chief deputy, that's Jim Davis. Jim's been around Caltrans for a long time, had a lot of roles. He was like an interim director, D4, many other organizations within Caltrans he worked in. Also a college football player. Jim's a very tall guy. If you guys ever come up to headquarters, coming out of the director's office, there's like a memorial or a statement on one of the doors, because the rumor is he hit it on the way out. So they put a sign up to commemorate that. But ex-football player, so certainly likes to take stuff heads on, right? Likes to make decisions. With that, I think we've got a great leadership stack, both at agency and in the department, as we always have. The impacts to us, I think you'll see myself and the division chiefs having to spend more time, at agency and with the director's office to make sure they're educated around all the great things that we do in IT. And also some of the challenges we have, with some of the technology debt we have here with our older hardware, software, as well as some of our older systems. But you're in good hands. Certainly we've got a strong management leadership team. It's just you may see less of us as we're spending more time in the director's office and down at agency. So thank you, Ron. I appreciate that.
Thank you, George.
And that's really the updates for me, as you can tell. Sweeping changes both at CalSTA and here at Caltrans. But you're in good hands, right? Let's just keep our heads down, keep doing what we're doing, and I'm sure folks will notice the great work that we do. With that, there's also great work happening in ADSD. Hi, Saeed. How are you doing?
Thank you.
I think you've got a quick update for you to use a pun in terms.
Yes, I do. Thank you, George. Good morning, everyone. My name is Saeed Bakhshi. I'm an Application Development Division Chief. Before I start talking about my presentation, I want to ask you a question. How many of you install Caltrans Quick Map on your cell phone? Come on. No? Okay. No problem. For those of you who have it, I have a great news for you. For those of you who haven't installed it yet, after I gave you this good news, I'm sure you're going to install it on your cell phone. What basically it is we're going to impose or send it what we call push text messaging with any incident or lane closure or planned lane closure due to accident or incidents, and also snow times. So if you are at the zone, let's say in about 10 miles, you're going to get a text message telling you about the traffic or lane closure that you're going to get the latest information. This information is close to the real time, and we are realizing our current system, lane closure systems, and also TMCal information right away on your cell phone. Let me give you a little bit background. Late 2018, one of our legislator, Assemblyman Jim Frazier, approached Caltrans and asking about improving the communications platform for traveling public. And traffic operations approached IT and asking us about how we can help them out. And guess what? We are working on the mobile application team did a great job. They are providing this kind of capability to the Quick Map. And we will have this capability in a beta testing in October. and by December, we're going to deploy to production. So don't forget, install it, and use it. And basically what you're going to see is that if an incident happens in a, let's say, 10 miles range, you're going to receive a text message. Or if you get out of that 10 miles range, you're not getting any text message. So this, what we call geofence interface, is what controlled by traffic operation and also public information office and TMC. They are going to be continuously update this and utilize this option for notifying the public. And the type of messages is going to be available on any phone, like an iPhone or Android-based telephone. So you're going to get those kind of messages tell you that what's going to happen. Please make sure to apply it. It's very good. It's going to be great, dynamic, and you're going to get the latest information. Thank you so much. Ron, do I have any questions?
You do, Saeed. Can you tell us the status of where we're at with the bimodal effort?
Oh, sure, I will. You may not know about the bimodal team. Bimodal team is we last year, based on George's instruction, to come up with a team to how quickly we can develop a system or application on a fast track basis. So kind of utilizing agile technology, be able, put things together very fast. So things are moving forward, Ron. And we had a couple of challenges, obviously, and whereas George always said, let's try to in ITC how things moving forward. We're trying on implementing the agile culture, so to speak, in our team. So we're trying different technology, like Salesforce, trying to see which one is the best fit for Caltrans needs. And I'm sure that there's a couple of products on the line. We hope really to deploy it in production in a couple of months.
Thank you, Saeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Saeed. I really appreciate all the updates.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right. Next up, we have a man of very few words. No. No, we got Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right, fantastic. Things are always humming, I think, always buzzing in IMD. You're just coming back to us from ADA Web Accessibility, but
correct.
That doesn't mean you're sleeping on your laurels. I know you've got a bunch of projects queued up.
All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Nguyen. I'm the Chief Technology Officer. I also oversee the IT Management Division, Infrastructure Management Division. I'm here to basically give you an update on the computer room consolidation. I want to touch base on where we are at with ServiceNow Snow project, and then I'll end with the file storage in the cloud. Recently, we have completed consolidation of 3 additional computer rooms. These include District 1, 2, and 10. So I want to shout out to all the staff that are in the districts who have been involved in this, as well as at headquarters. Special thanks to all the leaders like Ron Clemens, Frank Shelley, Sharon Ruzan, Stephen Oliver, the managers at headquarters, John Sweet, Kamal Kathial, and most important of all, Russ Watts behind the scene, coordinating and orchestrating all of these migrations. We have done a fabulous job, and it has been an excellent teamwork from all levels, from staff, supervisors, and managers, and our customers, to basically bring all of these computers together in our strategic hub sites. For those of you who are new to this project and new to Caltrans, all we're trying to do is, one, make sure that we have more resiliency for our compute, storage, resources from the infrastructure to make sure that our applications don't go down during business hours. And then secondly, we want to make sure that we gain operational efficiency while doing this. So we have achieved that, and we have a few more computer rooms to consolidate. So I want to give a heads up to District 3 and District 6. You're on deck next to basically move forward with the consolidation effort. Next, I'd like to talk about the ServiceNow project. ServiceNow is what we call the IT Service Manager tool. We've been using HEAT, and HEAT has capabilities, but it's not robust enough to do the cool things that we must do in IT service management. Things such as creating tickets and differentiating between an incident versus a service request. We can't do that now. So HEAT will allow us to do that. Going forward, we'll be able to track assets in ServiceNow, having auto discovery capabilities of our assets, both hardware and software, so that we can create what is called a CMDB, a centralized management database of all of our technology assets. So when a customer calls in, we can associate them with their computer equipment and then track in terms of the type of incidents that we may have with the assets. And if we have too many similarities in terms of incident after incident, then it may lead to problem management. And it will allow us to do that in a much more eloquent way than what we have the capability in doing today. Also, I want to talk about how we're going to be dealing with the management and the rollout of this project. Now, traditionally, we have a system, and we would have a single group that would do the administration of the system. But because ServiceNow has different modules, things like asset management, configuration management, change management, release management, and so on and so forth, there will be no single group per se that will own and operate all of those modules. What we have done instead is to solicit engagement from staff and management from the districts to co-manage these modules. I know Wing has personally volunteered to be part of the change management module and co-manage that with a manager at headquarters. I know Stephen Oliver, Sharon Ruzan, Frank Shirley, and others in the district, Queen as well in District 7, and Tanda also volunteer for various modules in co-owning those modules as we move forward in planning, designing, configuring, and rolling these things out to our employees and our customers. So it is very exciting to have this project underway. Where we are right now is we're concentrating in the asset management module, and that module is being led by Latha Narayan, Ala Yousefi, and the third one is Melissa Hayward from District 5. So they have a team of 10 to 14 employees from various districts that are engaged in planning for this module, and we hope to basically start the pilot within the next 30 to 60 days as we move forward. So that's basically it, what I have for this morning. So Ron, do I have any questions from the audience?
You do, Mike. The question comes from District 7. We are seeing position levels raised across IT. Can you speak to what has been accomplished so far?
That's an excellent question. So I will be pleased to basically touch on that. I want to thank George for his leadership and support in helping IMD in establishing a new management layer under me. And that management layer is at the IT Manager 2, formerly known as the DPM4 level. So beyond that, we are also looking at upgrading some of the IT Supervisor 2 to ITM1's level. And below that, we are also looking at, or we have accomplished, upgrading about 6 IT Supervisor 1 to IT Supervisor 2. And we're not stopping there. We're looking across all districts to look at specialist positions to determine the level of work, the level of complexity, and determine if higher level classifications for IT specialists need to be established throughout the districts.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
All right, thanks so much, Mike.
All right. Thanks,
Appreciate your
George.
time. Appreciate you joining us. All right. Billinator.
Well, thank you, George.
How you doing, Bill? Appreciate it. See, I'm trying to work all the names in, right?
You're doing very well at that.
Have I missed any?
You know, you're coming up with some that I haven't heard
Oh,
before.
you know,
so
we're in
it's hard to
Hollywood
say
or
you're
in that
missing
area.
anything.
I know, so I thought I'd use the kind of billinator. So I think I might have one or two more opportunities to sneak some in.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, especially because this is your first time.
It is.
All right.
Yes, I'm fortunate enough to be able to stand in for Luck and represent PBMD, so happy to be here.
Nicely done. You know, I appreciate you coming. I will say I do miss Luck, so but I'm sure you'll be a great representative for PBMD. Especially, I love how you wore the orange tie.
Oh, thank you.
Did you buy that specifically for the show? Really?
Well, yeah, I don't buy orange normally, so it was. It
right,
was
'cause
done
it matches
with a
your
broken
eyes.
in thought. Oh, thank you very much. Your tie complements your eyes quite nicely.
Thank you
also.
so much. I appreciate that.
It's a little
Well,
awkward,
see how
isn't
he's
it?
doing that? It's a little personal. All right. With that, I better step off stage before I get in trouble here. So thanks, Bill.
Well, thank you, George. Thanks for the introduction. Well, happy to follow Mike, and thank you for the update. I'm looking forward to seeing SharePoint in the cloud as we move forward with some of that file storage and collaboration aspect. So I'm going to, and that's truly true to form representing Luck. You know, you have to bring up SharePoint. I'm going to go over three things. We have the transportation system network replacement. As George says, I'm not getting paid for it by the word, but there are acronyms, and I'd rather spell it out than give you all the acronyms and try to figure it out. TSNR is the first project. Transportation Asset Management System, otherwise known as TAMS. I'll talk about that second. And then training plans, which doesn't have an acronym. We'll talk about that. So TSNR, Transportation System Network replacement, that is about encoding accidents on our network. So when we talk about Cache CDAP, an effort that happened pretty recently to catch up on all the encoding that goes on and get the, from a traffic census and bring that into the encoding and understanding where we have accidents and where we need countermeasures developed. And that's the terminology used within the safety realm. TSNR is about modernizing the system that's been around since the late 90s and was done in Oracle forms and is in desperate need of update to both meet new requirements around MAP 21 and encoding these accidents on a map, as well as just to modernize the IT systems behind it. So TSNR is in the PAL process. Some of you may be familiar with the new process that used to be the FSR, the old FSR process. So from the PAL process, they just entered stage 3, got out of stage 2. There are 4 stages, so they're getting ready to do the procurement, which is the most exciting part of getting out there and engaging with the vendors and getting the system. So Cache CDAP helped a lot in preparing for that by clearing off a lot of that backlog that's been accumulating over many, many years. So that's an important part of getting ready for a system like that, is getting the data ready for the implementation. That one, I'll mention a couple names in IT. Delma Natoya is project manager, IT project manager for that. She's working with Ryan Mack, who's on the program side. And you'll see that pattern for some of the larger reportable projects, which these are 2, right now, the only 2 we have. That could change. Moving on to TAMS, Transportation Asset Management System, that's a project that I'm the project manager for. I'm a senior, I should have started out with the introduction. I am a senior project manager in PBMD, and as people like to point out, this is my one project. So it's a big one, but a lot of people in IT aren't that fortunate. You have many different things that you're working on, and I do have some other things, but TAMS is kind of my baby. The first thing I like to say about TAMS is it's not an asset management system, which you look at the name and that's the first thing people think of, right? Well, we're not replacing, Agile Assets Pay Them or the SMART system, the bridge management, Pontus, the drainage databases, although some of those, are going through modernization and upgrades. That's not the goal of TAMS. TAMS is about asset performance management. So it's about taking that asset information and deciding what are the best projects to do to achieve the best investment that we can have for our goals and objectives, right? So it's not as simple as, oh, we have a condition base and we need to do a recap or something of that nature. It's looking at our overall structure, infrastructure, and deciding what each district's going to do from goals and objectives. I'm excited about it because it's a transformational project. I mean, it literally will change how Caltrans plans and executes its projects. So from that standpoint, I get to learn a lot and see how things are done from a program side, and that's not an opportunity you get in IT all the time. So really enjoy it. The last one is about investing in our assets, you. And from an IT perspective, you've all completed your training plans. You got hands raised, you know what training you want to do in the next year? Well, if you have, then we need you to start executing on that. So work with your managers, start looking at scheduling that training, figuring out when it is. If there's a contract needed, your managers will have to get that in place. Within PBMD, they'll work with Sajid Khan in order to work on the scheduling and contracts and making sure all the training is planned and going. We don't want to end up, as we sometimes do, at the end of the year, there's a lot of training dollars, people haven't done their training, so we're giving you kind of, hey, start now, get your training going now so that you're not at the end of the year trying to use those dollars. So with that, I may be one of those speakers that talks too fast, but that's kind of the way I am. Any questions in the audience? Or?
I do have one for you, Bill.
Okay.
What is the role of the Enterprise Architecture Committee with these large projects?
Okay. Well, that's good because that's one of the other things I do. I'm the EAC chair, so I don't just have the one project. But the EAC is growing in importance. So we have traditionally looked at, and is everybody familiar with the EAC or heard of them? So you've heard of the hardware and software standards list. There's a new one just published, I think 2 weeks ago. And when you want an exception to that, one of the things, and that's not the only thing the EAC does, but one of the things the EAC does is look at your request for that exception. We try to understand why that exception is being asked for and go ahead and recommend to ITEC, the IT Executive Council, I'll try to spell out the acronyms, for that exception of a hardware software. So, we look at drones, we look at, just basic, desktop applications to larger enterprise applications and what we call intakes or small mini projects. So we do quite a bit in the EAC. When it comes to these larger projects, though, our role is morphing and changing so that we're going to have to look at the integration requirements of these projects. We talked a little bit about TAMS and TSNR and the amount of data they're going to contain and the number of systems that they're going to integrate with. We need to figure out a better way of doing that so that we're not doing these one-to-one connections. Along with that, portions of these systems, and they haven't gone through procurement yet, so we don't know what they're really going to end up doing as far as the implementation. TSNR has a best-of-breed approach, so we could end up with portions or modules of that system on-prem, some of it in the cloud, and we need to look at our security integration and our data integration across these domains from internal to external. And that's a little more complicated than we can imagine, and have had to deal with. When we've done cloud implementations, they tend to be everything's in the cloud and it's kind of contained well. The world's going to change a little bit with these two projects. So, excellent question. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Thanks so much, Wilster. I appreciate the updates, and I'll say, those big projects. You mentioned CAS-CDAP before, TSNR. That was a 28-year backlog that got caught up on that project.
It's huge.
There's a phrase, how do organizations mature one project at a time? And so certainly those are going to be changing the stage here at Caltrans. Thanks for all of your efforts on that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, you bet. All right. Last but not least, Carl Copper.
George.
How are you doing, Carl?
Doing great.
Wow, I love that. Doing great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
How's the rest of the organization doing? I think we're going to hear from you about that, but kind of lead in. I hear you've been doing some fishing, and you're a camper, but
Like the outdoors.
Yeah. Yes, but this isn't the kind of fishing we're talking about, are we?
No, this is the kind of fishing that keeps me from the outdoors. So I'd appreciate it if we went to zero, and that's my message today. Let's try to get to 0 clicks. In all seriousness, we recently did a phishing campaign across all of IT folks, and we have some stats to talk about that are unfortunately not as good as we'd like them to be. We're talking about stats in the range of 12% and failure rate. And that's 12% for clicking, so about 70 people clicked on the email. The fish rate that the Department of Military defines for failure is around, comparing it across the industry, is around 12%. So within IT, we should be striving to beat the industry average. So we're talking about, you know, accounting firms, tech firms, all different types of industry verticals are lumped together. Within IT, hopefully we can work to improve our stats. So not to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm here today to talk about in the context of the cybersecurity industry and the attacks that are occurring. Ransomware has become an $11+ billion a year industry in terms of the damages it's causing, and huge untold amount are going to the cybersecurity criminals because people are paying for the ransoms. So Mike graciously left his last bullet for me to talk about, so I'll put a spin on the file services in the cloud that he was talking about. You may think cybersecurity is against such a thing, but actually, to protect from ransomware, what's the number one thing that will protect you from a ransomware event, that will prevent you from having to pay if you get attacked? Does anybody know the number one thing that protects you from having to pay? Don't click, that's a good answer.
You have your data stored elsewhere.
You have your data somewhere else, right? If you have your data, they can't hold you hostage by just encrypting what's on your hard drive. So backups and storage in the cloud, a lot of the cloud services from a security standpoint are a good thing, because every time you change a file, they snapshot it. They make a snapshot of the file. If the ransomware attack occurs and they encrypt all the files, the file service in the cloud will snapshot it as it occurs, and you can simply go back to the last version. So with that, I'd like to tell you a story in IT. Recently, get out of the way of my own slide here, we had someone in IT, again, I'd like to hold IT to a little bit higher standard, who had local admin rights or privileged access to their machine. This employee had downloaded and installed a personal email service client on their desktop. So this was not something on the standards list. This is not Caltrans approved software, but they had decided to load this software, and they could do it because they had local admin rights. They then were reading their personal email using this personal service, and received an email that came across as a zip file. They opened the zip file and unpacked it, and inside of it there was a doc file. That doc file, then they opened that, and inside of that doc file there was a script that wanted to run, granted permission, script runs, script fires, and ransomware is deployed at that point. Now, fortunately at Caltrans, as you are probably well aware, we just deployed a new EDR, or Endpoint Detection and Response system, that actively shot this down in real time and protected our network from a ransomware outbreak. This is not the story you want to tell in IT, that your last line of defense was your first line of defense. We prefer the defense in depth. We prefer to catch these kind of things earlier on as they travel through the email system. So it's within this context, it's within this backdrop that I'm announcing today that we've been working with the directorship at Caltrans, and we will be blocking access to personal email services. These are emails that don't go through our email security system. They don't go through our filtering system. We're unable to protect our network until it's almost too late. So we have to begin to stop the use of personal email systems on Caltrans equipment. So with that, I'll go on to talking a little bit about what's coming up for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. In October, we always roll out some awareness campaigns. I will be talking more about ransomware next month and what we're trying to do to help prevent it and help get our phishing statistics up. Once the bad guys get onto the network, once they put the dropper file down or get the beachhead as it's described, they want to move laterally through your network. They want to start popping other machines. And how do they typically accomplish that? What's the favored method of doing that? Well, there's a site out there that publishes all the different ways that you can pop other machines. And you know what that site is? It's the sites that publish the security patches, right? Every time a patch comes out, they're saying, here are the vulnerabilities that we're fixing. So if you follow the patches, if you're a bad guy and you follow the patches, you can know how to move laterally across the network by just looking for machines that don't have the latest patches. And unfortunately, in our case, we do have IMD and all of IT, I should include all of us, but mostly the folks in Mike's shop have been doing a fantastic job of patching our servers on a regular cadence. That's really, really good news for cybersecurity. We need to bolster that and improve that across the entire fleet, everywhere where we can patch, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but especially around the desktop systems. So we are deploying, through additional funding that we received, a vulnerability scanning tool that will let us scan all of the equipment, so all of the desktops, and find out where we have vulnerabilities that need to be patched. This broadcast gets published on the internet, so I won't go into details of the ones that we know already, but we do have some things where we recently hired pen testers, penetration testers, to come and attack our network, and they were able to move laterally across our network, do a privilege escalation, and get the keys to the kingdom. They got domain admin privileges, and a large part of that is because they were able to exploit systems that needed to be patched. So we're not unique in that sense. Everybody in the industry, we all struggle with this. So I'll pivot now and take off my cybersecurity hat, and I'll step off my soapbox a little bit for cybersecurity, and I'll talk about the application roadmap project. This is a 12-month effort. We'll hopefully pull those dates in a little bit around studying our infrastructure at the request of the Department of Finance and the California legislature when we ask for additional funding to help improve our aging. You know, we talk in transportation about the crumbling infrastructure. We have that right here in IT. I think we've got some equipment, some network equipment that's more than 15 years old. And when you start talking about that age of equipment, you've gone well past what's considered safe life of a piece of equipment. And in order to answer the question to the accounting, can I call them bean counters, to the bean counters, around why are you replacing that equipment, why do you need that ongoing augmentation for funding, we have to do a study and say where are there efficiencies that can be gained. And by that, I mean, where is there overlap? Where are things that don't belong on an old system that should be on a new, updated, modern system? And when you put it on that new modern system, is it a replacement to a clustered farm on-prem cloud? Is it a cloud off-prem? Is it software as a service? Getting your arms around that across the entire fleet of applications and systems at Caltrans is a big project and a big effort, and that's what Application Roadmap is. Stay tuned for further details. I think this should be an interesting project and interesting results that we see from it. So I think with that, that's what I had for you today. Do I have any questions, Ron?
You do, Carl. Can you tell us where we're headed with accessing Caltrans email on personal devices?
So that's an interesting question. Whoever asked that, you must know that we have allowed historically personal devices, personal mobile devices, to connect to the Caltrans email system. And we run the risk of what we call a notice triggering event, so a PII, or personally identifiable information data loss event. If somebody leaves their phone at Starbucks, let's say they work in HR and they downloaded some social security numbers and they left their phone in Starbucks. Oh, and by the way, they didn't put a passcode on their phone. It's an old phone. It didn't require it. Because we don't care. We allowed the old phones as well. Well, that's a notice triggering event. We're required by law to notify the people that we lost your PII and offer them monitoring services. If we don't, now the law doesn't require us to offer monitoring, but we offer monitoring services. If we don't even know that that happens because it's a personal device and not a state-issued device, there's some liability there. So we need to bring them into the fold, or we need to eliminate them and give them a state-issued device. And if we bring them into the fold, we can deploy an MDM, a mobile device management solution, onto their phone. but now you're co-mingling personal data and state data. So if we have to do an operation on your phone, you lose all your kids' soccer pictures, or blow away your phone, or you may have a problem at 2 in the morning and you want to call IT and ask them why your phone's not working correctly. So there are a lot of things before we step into that we need to think through carefully, and hopefully I'll have an update for you with the official direction next time we meet.
Thank you, Carl.
Certainly.
Carl, so much. I've got a couple of follow-up questions for you. Are you ready?
Certainly.
All right, they're going to be deeply technical.
Okay.
No. You know, I hear often from you on kind of what's been going around some of the cities, counties, et cetera. We've talked about Colorado DOT and the issues they've had. But Texas recently had an issue that was kind of on a larger scale. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I think of this as the soft targets problem, and with ransomware, they have moved. You may remember a few years ago, I think it was down here in Southern California, one of the more famous ones, ransomware attacks started with hospitals. And that's terrible. They're attacking hospitals, with kids and life-saving medicine. Those are soft targets because they're focused on providing medicine and helping people. They don't necessarily have a strong IT cybersecurity shop. So the criminals took that as a business model, and I think have moved through different industries. And they have now, more recently, seemed to be settling on government and specifically cities. So in Texas, there were over 20, I think last count was 23 cities that got hit with ransomware pretty much all at the same time, and pushed them back to pen and paper in some cases. So you'd go to check out a library book and they would write it down on a piece of paper. Or a police officer will pull you over and actually write you a ticket on a piece of paper, and that was the carbon copy was the only record of it. So it's because those small cities don't have the budget. I had a conversation with some city of Stockton recently. They went through a bankruptcy, if you'll recall, relatively recently. So they're not. It's not a huge amount of funding available for cybersecurity to do it right and to help protect their network, and so that makes you a more likely target.
Yeah, you definitely have got a tough job, and I appreciate helping to safeguard us from going to pen and paper like so many organizations have. And I know you're a very modest guy, so I also want to bring up a couple other things. You recently spoke at an AASHTO conference, is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of those wild and crazy groups where everybody is just out of hand.
Those AASHTO guys.
It was the AASHTO Auditors Conference, so auditors, they are just off the hook at conferences. Like, settle down, stop drinking.
Fantastic. And the other thing is you're going to DC coming up as well, is that correct?
I believe I'll be going to Washington, D.C. Early part of next month for a national conference on transportation and cybersecurity.
Well, thanks so much, Carl. I know you got a lot going on, and I know oftentimes, we look at security as, kind of a necessary evil, but I want to kind of change that script, right? It's really a guardian. So thank you for all your work that you do.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to evangelize it.
You bet, you bet. All right, so this is the point in our session where we normally take questions from the audience, and also any questions from the Ask George. You still got a little time, and if you don't get into the Ask George while we're on the show, we're going to get back to you either way. But let me start with any questions from the audience here. I'm not really good on D7 trivia, but.
Mike touched upon.
Come on up, Mike.
He didn't have to come on. Some of the higher position allocations for the districts. Is there a timeline on when that might happen, possibly?
So I talked about.
Can you repeat the question just to make sure everybody heard it on the camera?
The question was, I talked about elevating some of the positions within IMD, ranging from management, supervisors, and the question is alluding to possibly rank and file. What's the timeline for basically moving on those levels? So as we speak, we're wrapping up the interviews for the ITM2s. And we're going to be, we have started the paperwork for the ITM1s. We have upgraded 6 IT Soup 2 to date. And we're now looking, I'm very excited, looking at the specialist position. Some districts only have associates, IT associates. So we're looking at specialists 1 and 2 in terms of where's the workload, where is the complexity, which districts. And I hope to be a champion in moving on, introducing those IT specialist positions to the districts within the next 3 to 6 months.
Thank you, Mike. Good question. Anybody else?
Kind of following to that, sorry, my name is Jaime Velasquez. And just wanted to find out if, I mean, in the last restructure IT, people that were, associates were in touch as far as giving increases. It was the largest group that I guess in IT. And, you guys looking into that? I mean, because anybody that was below that, they got adjusted. Anybody above, a little got adjusted also.
Okay. So let me make sure I've got the question right. Thank you so much. This is around the reclassification, right? I think we went from 29 different classifications. Back in the day, it was associate ISA, associate PA, triple S, et cetera. And we went to the new classification structure. That was negotiated on a statewide level with both the unions and CalHR and others. And there were some classifications that fared better than others. I don't know that we've got much opportunity to change that structure. CalHR and the unions kind of negotiated that. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you that says, we can do something outside. I know within IMD, Mike is actively looking at all the classifications and are they the right ones, given especially some of the larger districts. So I think that's what we're going to be looking at is maybe increasing some of the classifications, but I don't know that we can make changes within the classifications. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Any other questions? No? Then let's go to Ask George. Were there any other questions that came up, Ron?
We've got one more, and I think I can answer it, George.
Oh, fantastic, Ron. We love to. I don't know, folks. That certainly. How long have you been at Caltrans? I was going to say you've been here a while.
24 years.
At Caltrans.
At Caltrans.
All right. So you probably know a lot of folks, but I don't know if everybody in the audience, can put a kind of face to the name. So what is that question?
So the question comes specifically for IT. Does IT have a telecommuting policy? So IT does not, create policy. We create practices, and you may have seen some of those that Mike Wynn and others have created. But we did have a deputy directive in 2011 that was a telecommuting policy, DD 14. So I've had the privilege of being named to a committee. We met for the first time last week. Director Berman, before she left the organization, and the LTP2. I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with that acronym, but Leadership Training Program 2. It's the highest level the executives and others go to it. Their product is usually a project. So you may have seen the CONES website. The CONES website actually helps supervisors to help manage the employees and all the things associated with managing. This last year's project was on telecommuting. So to reduce vehicle lane miles, to greenhouse gas emissions, the health and well-being of our employees, they formed this committee. I'm, again, privileged to be on this committee. CalHR, Caltrans HR, Labor Relations, IT, and others are on this committee. And we're charged with reviewing, what is telework, and that's their new coined term, not telecommuting anymore, but telework. Entail as far as requirements and where can we have that opportunity for our employees to achieve all of those goals, reducing vehicle lane miles, greenhouse gases, et cetera. So where we're at is they're drafting a policy. The administration program is drafting a new policy. It's soon to be released, which we're reviewing. And we're also compiling, like my role for infrastructure is, hey, this is what an infrastructure for a teleworker should be. So if we create that foundation for what it requires, who can qualify depending on your position. Some positions don't lend themselves well to teleworking, right? Others might. And it might even be within the same classification. An associate in one district that does geospatial work and really has not much customer interaction might be able to telework, whereas a desktop support person, it might be more challenging to invoke telework for that user. But we are positive that we will transform telework at Caltrans from a defined and I guess easily engaged process so that you can apply and work with your manager to actually try and make that happen. So more to come on that. Any questions on that? All right.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Ron.
you. You bet.
Appreciate it. All right. Now we're going to talk about the next location. So next stop, what do you guys think? We normally put a picture up. Any ideas? D12. Thanks, Billiam. So D12 is not the answer, but we're going to get you there. I promise. What's in D12? Is there Disneyland's here, right? So I don't know. All right. All right, very good. So that's why. Now I get it. All right, now I understand. Any guesses on what the next location may be?
11, San Diego.
Sacramento. You're right. It is Sacramento. For the end of the year one, I'd like to try to keep the crew at home and keep the division chiefs at home so they don't have to travel. Certainly, Ed and Jay, they always do a great job. You know, they travel a lot on the holidays. Even to get ready for this show, they're traveling on the Monday holidays, so we try to give them a break too. So we're looking at November in Sacramento. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hope you learned a little something. I hope you also were entertained along the way, and I want to thank all the D7 folks for their hospitality and such a great welcoming. So thank you very much.